All right, so hello everyone. Today we have a student from the University of Southern California. Her name is Vina. Vina, can you go ahead and just introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Vina Nguyen, and I'm currently majoring in human biology at USC. I'm specifically under Dornsive College of Letters, Arts, and Sciences. I am a pre-medical student, and yeah.
All right, awesome. And so Vina, why did you decide to choose human biology as your major to study in college?
I chose human biology because biology was in the air, but I saw that human bio was more of an interdisciplinary perspective with the social sciences and human sciences, and it also promotes health. And it's not specifically just all this bio classes. So I thought that human bio, being more oriented towards humans, human anatomy, all of that would better suit me as a student.
Okay, so would you say that you would rather like dive into a more specific concentration rather than like the giant umbrella of just like biological sciences as a whole?
Yeah. Um, Honestly, right now, I found that like my intro classes might not be where I want to concentrate in. That's why I chose human biology, because I knew that I was a person who is more interested on the human aspect of it. And so um, I do want to focus. And as a human biology major, I do get to focus on four tracks, which I will choose later on. I'm not too prepared on what I exactly want to follow yet, but in the upcoming years, I will be able to choose what I want to pursue in.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome. I mean, same. I'm like in the same boat as you too. I'm a human bio major, and then we have like same thing. We have those four tracks, and then for me, like even though I hit the health and disease track for at least what I'm gonna do, I know a lot of
Uh-huh.
students are still deciding on it. So, would you say as even though you're pre-med and typically pre-meds are supposed to like they have like that stereotype that oh everything has to be perfect. Would you say it's still definitely okay for a pre-med student to still be like understanding or deciding in their beginning years?
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. I feel like pre-medical students should be open with all the options, like not to be like narrowed or like tunnel vision on pre-medical, because I feel like there's just so much more. Maybe one day I might not be a pre-med student and I might pursue something that I found interesting in the STEM field. I'm definitely keeping my options open right now. I'm not too tunneled on pre-medical, but I know that's something that I do want to pursue. So I'm gonna still stay on this track. But as of now, I'm going to be open to a lot of interests, and I'm going to pursue it through like research or like volunteering, and maybe discover another interest and pursue that interest.
All right, perfect. Yeah, I think that's awesome because I think something that's pretty common in pre-meds is they think that, oh, the only path is medical school, but have to be having, that understanding that, things might not go the way you want it to go. And it's not like more of an excuse, but it's just like the reality of how things happen. So I think it's really good to have those backup options on the side as well.
Yeah.
Right. Perfect. So obviously, you're attending USC, you're one of my classmates. It's been, fun going to bio whenever either of us showed up to class. But so
ADMs.
exactly. But so why did you decide on USC? I mean, I know you're pretty much local in the Southern California area, so why USC?
Um, so I got a lot of options like other UCs, but then, and I also like applied to other privates. But then, like with my family, I was able to receive a huge financial aid, and so the price for my privates and my UCs were basically the same. So like, I was thinking to myself, like, why would I go to a public over private if it's like the same price? Like I could get the benefits of going to a private school. And so then I narrowed down my choice. And so I was really stuck between USC and Cornell, actually.
Oh
And
wow.
so, yeah, it was really hard to choose between those two schools. I think I spent a whole month like I actually decided to go to USC on USC student admit day, which is like the day the agreement was due. And
Yeah,
so in choosing between these two schools, like Cornell is in upstate New York. It's really cold. It's East Coast.
yeah,
It's very far, and USC is SoCal local. And for me, I do like. I was interested in like trying new things. Going far from my family, but I feel like maybe if it was a different private on the East Coast, I would have been more interested, because Cornell is just so rural countryside, or like,
Yeah.
there's like, it's so empty. Like I actually visited because I had such a hard time choosing. So
Uh-huh.
then I actually visited Cornell for the weekend, and I went to their student at midday.
Mhm.
It was nice and all. I actually got to attend classes. Students were actually in their classes. I got to go through all that, talk to professors or talk to the faculty, but it just didn't hit the same as it did when I went to USC. And it might sound really cliche, but I feel like on my student at midday, when I stood on the USC campus versus when I stood on the Cornell campus, maybe Cornell was just a very foreign school to me, but
Uh-huh.
I had like a really weird calling from USC. I know it's so weird, but like,
Makes
I
sense.
don't know, like USC, I just knew I was gonna belong at USC. It's just a feeling, like I can't even describe it. And people say that you get that that feeling or whatever it is, and I now understand it, but I can't explain it, and it just doesn't come to you.
Yeah.
But I guess I felt like, USC was it for me with no explanation. But I also like also considered private school benefits, like
Yeah.
small classes. You get to have more interaction with professors, more financial assistance, and better, sometimes better advisement, which I know that USC does have good advisement. That's something that I looked into because I wanted as much resources and as much assistance as I can through my whole college pathway. And so I think that's why I chose USC. USC is also like a really perfect choice for me because it's far enough for me to not live at home, but it's
Uh-huh.
close enough for me to visit home. So like I thought, like, I kind of get the best of both worlds. It's like, far from my family, get that kind of feeling, but also still be close enough to visit my family when I can, so that I can so that's for the times that I'm, alone, like I'm gaining some sort of independence and learning things for myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. And I think after maybe like let's just say 75% of the year, because I know our semester was cut short by the current
Hmm.
pandemic. But would you say that feeling that idea of having that calling or that willingness that you would belong on campus, do you think you felt that during your first year at USC?
I did, and I felt like that calling made really push me to try new things at USC. I feel like if I was maybe at a different school or maybe even at Cornell or a different UC, I feel like that I would have been more scared to try new things. But for some reason at USC, I wanted to try new things. And so I did, um, which I think we'll go into later for like extracurriculars. So,
That's awesome. And I think just one more thing, just on the college decision process for you.
mhm.
Obviously, Cornell is considered an Ivy League school, and I think growing up as an Asian American in the U.S., um, a lot of Asian students are pressured to apply to an Ivy school, or even attend if they were to get accepted. Yet, you have a case where you still have two really good schools, USC and Cornell, and yet you didn't choose the Ivy name. I mean, when you were in high school, did you ever feel pressure in that sense of like having that title of an Ivy League school to go to Cornell? Like, were you ever pressured in any way?
Um, I came from a really competitive high school, so people were really high achieving. People wanted to go to Ivy League school, wanted to go to Stanford, all that, all those really top schools. I didn't feel that pressure because at that time I didn't have the confidence to say that I belonged to such, top tier schools, Ivy League schools. And my parents didn't pressure me to go to those schools. I honestly didn't feel a lot of pressure, but I felt like it was more of other students around me who were getting the pressure. I was just, kind of chilling. So then during the college app process, I applied to Cornell for fun, actually.
Really?
I really didn't expect anything out of it. I kind of did it a little last minute. I hope college Cornell admission officers don't see this. I did the application really last minute,
Uh-huh.
and I pulled through and it worked out. I don't know how, but I guess I got lucky. But yeah, honestly, I applied to one Ivy League just for fun, just to see like, oh, am I gonna make it? I don't know, that kind of stuff. But um for my parents, they just wanted, I did feel a little pressure that they wanted me to go to a top school, but like, maybe like not super top tier, just because
Yeah.
they understand like the stress and pressure that students go through, and they didn't want me to go through all that. Especially like I went going through a really competitive high school already. They understood that I was very stressed already,
Mhm.
so they didn't want me to have to go through that too much.
Okay, that's awesome. And I think let's actually step back and go back to the time when we were seniors, applying to college, and just the whole college application process. I guess first off, if you could like holistically summarize how that went for you, like how did you feel about applying to college as a general whole?
Um, I would say I wasn't very prepared for it just because I'm a first generation student. I felt like everything was very new for me. My parents like couldn't really help me because, I'm first generation and I'm the older sibling of the house. So I kind of had to maneuver through all this like on my own.
Mhm.
And I feel like the gist of my college app process that made it easier for me to get through was my ability to find resources that could help me, free resources, because some people like hire private counselors or whatever, but I was
Yeah.
able to find free counselors to help me through the process so that I didn't have to be alone like the whole time. And so I really utilized my resources to their full advantage. And I in terms of like essays and all that stuff, I mostly asked the free counselors that I had for help. But I'm like one to not really share that kind of stuff. So then I didn't really ask friends for help. So
I
I
see.
feel like my summary of my college app process was that even I wasn't super like prepared in the beginning, but I was able to catch on because I grabbed some resources.
Mhm.
And I wasn't super like I honestly didn't know USC in junior year.
Really
Which
interesting.
I was like, what is that school?
Oh,
I
really?
really didn't know it. I know this is kind of bad. Like I wasn't super aware of schools. There's just so many schools. Like I wasn't super aware until like the college app season came and I had to actually do, solid research on a lot of
Uh,
schools. And then I realized like there's just so much out there. Like I could go to a lot of schools or go to privates, and
mhm.
there's like a lot. So yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. And going back to when you were talking about like finding your own resources or like finding those free counselors, what was your way of finding them? Like, did you just do quick internet searches? Did you talk to friends, upperclassmen? Maybe your school provides something for you. So, like,
Mhm.
what was your way of like being able to get those accessible pieces of like information or knowledge?
I talked to upperclassmen. Luckily, I had some people to help me. I heard that like they went through this too, and they got these free counselors. And so I was like, like let me know the information so that I could also do that. And then from there, um, like specifically, I was part of like a program called Questbridge College Prep Scholars. I also became like the finalist, but I didn't get to the last round, but I was almost there. And so, like being a finalist, I was able to be part of a Facebook group page where everyone just shared all their resources. It was kind of insane because, like, um, there's just so many resources laid out for you. People were posting, internships, volunteering opportunities, all that. So, like, even though I did a lot of research in the beginning, middle end towards the middle end, I kind of had other people help me because I was able to find all these resources.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, definitely for sure. I feel like there's so many ways for students to get information, and I feel like a lot of students think that they become so reliant on their school, and not every school is fortunate enough to provide that. So I think it's definitely great that there are alternatives other than just like relying on your own high school to do so. And I guess if we were just to wrap up the entire college application process, um, is there any regret or something that you would change about what you did if you could go back in time?
Um, my change would be that I wish I prepared a lot sooner. I feel like I kind of put it off too much just because I was focusing on the SAT and I was already struggling on the SAT because I'm like not the best test taker. And so I kind of put that off so that I could get the best score possible. And then that kind of intervened with my college app process because like, my last SAT was in August and college app process is gonna start around that time. And so like I
Yeah.
had to focus on two things at once. And I really regret that because I feel like that prevented me from applying to more colleges. I applied to about 10 colleges, but I wish I tried applying to more privates because I feel like I wanted to. I at that time I was interested in going, out of state, and so I kind of lost the motivation to do essays for other colleges. So that's just one thing that I would change. Spending more time on the college app process, starting early, doing my research early because you don't realize how many essays you have for these colleges.
Yeah.
Even though you can like recycle your essays, like there's just um, each of these colleges have their own, mini essays, whatever it is. So it's like it's a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, there's so many essays. Some of them, sometimes you apply to a school and you see how many essays they require, and you're like, nah, I'm not gonna apply. Like, that's a pretty haunting in itself. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely one thing to consider. Definitely getting started early. Obviously, it doesn't have to be super early. You don't have to be like all bonsai in your freshman year, but of high school. But as long as you are aware of it, I think it's important. Sure. Awesome. So I guess now let's talk a little bit more about, you as your time in college right now. And
Hmm.
being a science student and pre-med, um, one thing that is typical for like pre-med students, they have to take a lot of lab classes. So can you just quickly describe your experiences taking those lab classes, whether that be, I believe both of us, we've only taken like biology and chemistry labs so far. So like, I guess your opinion on those kind of classroom setting.
Classroom setting wise, I do like my lab classes because I feel like it's, not just behind the books, not behind the lectures. It's something that you can, interact, do, because I'm more of a hands-on learner. So like I feel like I was able to learn more by doing, actual experiments, whether it was bio or chem.
Hmm.
And um, environment wise, I felt like depending on who you got, I feel like your TAs could be really helpful, could help you learn along the way. And like in the beginning of like both classes, biochem, they would have like mini lectures or whatever. And if you attended those, took advantage of those, you would be able to learn and get ahead of the experiments. And so those were pretty helpful.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, I feel like a lot of students, especially in those who are a part of a high school that maybe isn't fortunate enough to have like those laboratory equipments or to be able to perform actual labs. Like when they get into like college, it's like a huge learning curve because they're just like, oh, I've never experienced anything or done anything like this, so they're turning brand new. But I think it's good that you mentioned that there are TAs and people that are willing to help, so you can catch up and be at the same pace.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think another thing to touch up on is just like the dormitory, like, residential living in college. And specifically for both of us, we lived in a suite rather than just like those typical two-person dorms. So can you just explain what your life was like, living in like, I believe an eight-person suite, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I even though like our suites are like maybe like a few hundreds more expensive dollars more expensive per semester, it's like freshman year, so like I felt like it was worth to invest. And so I honestly don't regret it because I really like the 8 person suite structure because I felt like it was easier to find your group in the beginning. I mean, I'm not trying to find the easy way out of socializing here,
Yeah.
but like, in the beginning, it was just easier to settle before I kind of had to branch out. I mean, like residence halls, you can easily do that by going door to door, but I feel like being in the negative or con about being in an 8 person suite is that maybe people are like less inclined to go door to door just because there's only four, or at least from my building. I'm not sure about other buildings, but there was only 4 rooms with 8 people each on each of the hallways. And so there's not a lot of doors to knock on, but um people who were like living across each other, they still got to get close to each other. So I really like living in the dorm. I feel like freshman year dorming experience is something like you should have, because it's not the same as like commuting to school every day for like maybe an hour, 30 minutes, whatever it is. It's definitely not the same experience. And even though it's like maybe hundreds of $1,000s more, I feel like it's worth it just for the first year. So I highly recommend dormitory experience.
All right, awesome. And then, obviously the way that both of our like suites were formatted was like, 4 rooms with 2 people in each room. So obviously you had your own roommate, and then you had like a bunch of like maybe 6 other people that you'd be
Uh-huh.
living in the same space with. And how was like handling the living conditions? Because obviously I feel like some residential housing, they have like communal bathrooms, some places are a lot more private. So how was it like, I mean, just like the cleanliness of the entire place, like was it so able to manage like, you know, every single person's um I guess like living style in a sense? So like was that manageable to do in such a larger like room?
Yeah, like with having private bathrooms, like it was definitely nicer. I feel like if I walked into a residential hall bathroom, I would kind of be scared.
Yeah,
I mean,
I feel
it's
the
part
same.
of the experience, but
Yeah.
I feel like private bathroom, I definitely like that. But at the beginning of the year, we did like do some agreement with our RA,
Mhm.
which is like the residential advisor. We did agreement so that if we had problems, we could resolve them more easily. And so my suite really didn't have problems. We got along really well. Like honestly, we were all very diverse people who came from different backgrounds, different places, like all over the map, literally.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy how we got together, but we were still able to live well with each other. So I would say no conflicts really. And in terms of managing people's habits, um, I would say if you talk to each other, if you didn't
Mhm.
like something about how a person was living or their habits, you could talk to them easily. One thing that I learned about dorming in college is being confrontational because if you feel like something's bothering, you should definitely confront the person. So
Yeah.
for college freshmen, if you don't like something about your roommate, be confrontational.
Okay. And
Yeah.
confrontation, just don't be too aggressive or say anything.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
Confrontational. Yeah.
just be understanding. And obviously, there's like you said, there's
Hmm.
RAs or people that you can talk to if things aren't going your way. So there's always ways to resolve it. I feel like
Yeah.
you don't have to be shy or awkward about it.
Yeah,
All right.
just definitely like don't bury it because that would honestly not make you a happy camper.
Sure. All right. And I guess, let's move on to another thing about, college lifestyle, extracurricular activities. And obviously, I know we're in like, volunteer organizations and whatnot. Especially like, being pre-med, I feel like a lot of students are worried about research, doing volunteer work, shadowing. But for you,
Hmm.
you actually did something your first semester of freshman year that I guess many pre-meds wouldn't think to do because they feel like being pre-med, you're always studying or having to do activities that cater to, your career as a physician in the future. So you did something called dance off, and I was wondering if you can explain what dance off was, the time commitment, and like how you were able to balance that with school.
It's called Freshman Dance Off. It's under CASA, which is a Korean cultural club at USC. And so Freshman Dance Off is only for freshman fall semester. It only happens once a year. And sorry, and like transfer students, like they can't do that kind of stuff, or like spring admits. So it's only freshman fall semester. And so for freshman dance off, you get to compete in a competition against a lot of SoCal universities, or like UCLA, UCI, UCSD. All those schools came together and we competed after about 2 months of preparation. And so for dance off, on the advertisement, they said 2 to 3 hours of commitment.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I was fooled. I was very fooled because I did not realize that starting at 8 p.m., 2 to 3 hours commitment, ending around 11 p.m. would last me to see sunrise. No, yes, to see sunrise with my fellow teammates, like 6 a.m. sometimes. Okay, I'm not trying to scare you guys though, because
Yeah.
freshman dance off was a such a memorable experience. I stayed up very late with these people.
Mhm.
I pulled all-nighters. I became nocturnal for 2 months. I stayed awake during the day. I mean, during the night, and
Uh-huh.
slept during the day. And I did have to skip a few classes, but then I took care of myself and had to catch up with all my classes. And so honestly, the time commitment for dance off was kind of insane. But this is for all schools. Like it's not just USC. It's like
Yeah.
all the other schools are competing. They are very competitive. They want to win this competition. So they're gonna put these hours in. And all these hours led me to make like long lasting friendships and close friends, experiences that I would have never thought I would have. Um like challenges, for example, in dance off, there's something called challenges where you challenge someone for a dance position.
Uh-huh.
So like if you don't like a spot, you can challenge someone. I never thought I would be this kind of person to do that because I'm a beginner dancer. I'm novice. I haven't touched dance, but
Mhm.
yet I learned to take challenges in this organization. So um this organization has taught me a lot. And so, this has nothing to do with my major, my career, but this is something that I wanted to do for fun freshman year. So I took the risk and made an investment into dance, and it was a pretty good investment. I really enjoyed my time, and I have no regrets for it. Got
Mhm.
to make the best friends ever. So I'm really happy with my experience. I would say that it was definitely hard to manage my classes. Uh, Very hard, actually. But
Yeah.
I think being part of a dance club, I couldn't participate in other things like career health clubs that I wanted to do. So I kind of put it off. I was like, I don't really need to do that yet. Like, I could pursue my interests first. So that's what dance house has led me to.
I mean, that's awesome too. I mean, considering that, like I mentioned, for pre-meds, they think that, oh, we have to join into, academic stuff or do things that are geared toward, getting into med school specifically. But I think it's important to mention that, there's a lot of things that aren't like that, just things you do for interest that is still important to do, especially, as you mentioned, being a part of dance off. So I think that's awesome. And I guess,
Yeah.
just to wrap up this entire video, if you could give advice to high school students, I mean, whether that be for college application process, for lifestyle in college, or life advice in general, what would that be?
Um, I would say to involve yourself in things that you're passionate about, what you're interested about. I know during college app process, we tend to, join organizations, clubs just because it's for the college apps, for the resume, all that stuff, which is totally understandable. I know people do that. I do that myself, only during high school process. But, you know, even if you're doing all those things, like in the process, make sure to do what you're really passionate about too. Um, because you might not be able to do these things later on, and so it's like better to pursue your interests at an earlier time. So that would be my advice for um, high school students, college students. Yeah.
All right, yeah, perfect. And that's awesome. And definitely find things that you're interested in, because I feel like if you want to make college or the rest of high school enjoyable, you gotta do things that definitely interest you. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, thank you, Vina, for talking for today's video. It's definitely a pleasure to have you here and just to explain your experience. And for everyone watching this, we hope that you did get some information that's pretty valuable for your time in college and for the college application process. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you for inviting me to this interview.